Hello guys, today we're playing ULTRAKILL with one simple restriction. I can only use blue weapon variants. Green and red variants are completely off limits. Yes, alternate weapons are allowed. They're a separate mechanic. The only rule is that every weapon has to be in blue variant. So I'm allowing myself also to use the whiplash, since a few levels can't realistically be completed without it. Alright, let's see how much I'm going to regret this. The weapons, I want to parry it. After watching the intro, you'd probably expect this challenge to be a complete disaster from the very beginning. Honestly, I thought the same thing. Going into a run where I could only use the blue weapon variants and the whiplash sounded like it would make the easiest level a struggle. But somehow, it really didn't. Prelude ended up being a great warm-up, and Limbo was much easier than I had expected. Most fights went surprisingly smoothly, and before I've even realized it, I have already made it through the early layers with barely any major setbacks. At that point, I was starting to think this challenge might be not as brutal as I had imagined. Of course, that feeling didn't last forever. Lost and Gluttony weren't nearly as bad as I expected either. Levels 2-3 and 2-4 went by without causing too many problems, and even the Gluttony layer was surprisingly manageable. Sure, I died a couple times to the Corpse King of Minos and Gabriel, but looking back, most of the deaths were just careless mistakes rather than the challenge itself. At this point, everything still felt pretty manageable. However, I had started noticing something. As the enemies became tougher and the areas more demanding, I found myself missing the red and green weapon variants more and more. Fights were taking longer, I had fewer options to deal with certain situations, and I could already tell that this restriction was eventually going to catch up with me. For now, thought I was still making solid progress. By the time I reached Greed, the challenge had started to feel a lot more natural. I wasn't constantly thinking about the weapons I couldn't use anymore. Instead, I was trying to get as much value as possible of the ones I still had. The missing red and green variants were definitely becoming more noticeable, though there were still more and more situations where I knew exactly what that weapon I wanted to use, but simply couldn't. The first two layers of Greed also went pretty quickly, since I used a couple of skips to speed things up. Even with those shortcuts, the layer itself felt pretty fair, and I didn't run into any major problems. Surprisingly, V2 also went much better than I expected. At this point, I was still making steady progress, but I could exactly tell the game was slowly asking more and more from my limited loadout. It still wasn't too difficult, but I had a feeling that wasn't going to last much longer. 5-1 itself wasn't much of a challenge either. Since it's one of my favorite levels in the game, I know it almost by heart, so getting through it wasn't too difficult. However, level introduced something that I immediately knew was going to become a problem later on. Sentries. In this level, I could deal with them without too much trouble, because I already knew where they spawned and how to approach each encounter. But, with my restricted loadout, I could already tell they were going to be much more annoying than usual. Without some of the red and green weapon variants, taking them out safely become a lot less consistent. They didn't really cause any problems here, but I had a feeling they were getting only started. There honestly isn't a lot to say about 5-2. Nothing completely unexpected happened, and for the most part, the level went actually how I hoped it would. It was still getting more comfortable with the challenge, but I also knew things weren't going to stay this forgiving forever. So instead of talking over the entire level, I let my live reaction do the talking. Literally, who does that? Let's go. Oh. The red skull does that. Yeah, I also had a pretty one embarrassing moment here. For some reason, I completely forgot how the skull in this level actually worked. I remember that I needed a skull to get the ship, but I mixed them up. I grabbed the red skull first, only to realize that it just raised the platforms leading to the ship. The blue skull, the one that actually summons it. Because of that, I ended up running back to grab both skulls. Looking back, I could just taken the blue skull and skipped a huge part of the level with the rocket launcher. Definitely not one of my brightest moments. Before we get to the fight, I have to admit something. I absolutely hate fighting Ferryman. He's easily my second least favorite boss in the entire game, right behind the Mirror Reaper. Every time I know I have to fight him, I can already feel the stress kicking in. So I was fully expecting to spend quite a while on this fight. But somehow, against all odds, I actually beat him on my first try. I still can't believe it, so let's see how it happened. 1. Yeah. So we're playing Ferryman normally. I don't like Ferryman at all. I really don't like him. I really think he's really bad boss fight and I don't like him at all. Oh god. 5-3 has always been one of the strangest levels in ULTRAKILL for me. I generally have no idea what determines whenever this level is going to be easy or absolutely miserable. It doesn't matter if I'm playing casually the game, going for P ranks, or doing a challenge run like this one. Every single time I get here, it's basically a coin flip. Sometimes everything goes perfectly. I hit my shots, my movements feel smooth, every encounter flows into next one, and before I even realize it, the level is over. Other times, it's complete opposite. I make one tiny mistake, lose my rhythm, and suddenly everything starts falling apart. I'll panic, miss simple shots, take unnecessary damage, and somehow turn a level I really know into a complete disaster. That's why I was honestly stressed before starting this level. It wasn't because I thought it would be impossible with only blue weapon variants. It was because I never know which version of 5-3 I'm about to get. The easy one or the one that completely ruins my mood for the next 20 minutes. On top of that, I don't really enjoy replaying this level over and over again. It's not a bad level by any means, but after enough failed attempts, it becomes incredibly frustrating and I really wanted to avoid getting stuck here. So my plan was simple. Don't rush, don't get greedy, and just play the game as consistently as possible. Somehow, everything came together. I didn't play perfectly and I definitely have a few lucky moments, but I've never completely lost control of the round. Every fight felt manageable, I kept my composure, and before I knew it, I was at the end of the level. Looking back, I was honestly think luck played a big role here. If a few attacks had gone differently, this could easily turn into those 20 attempts levels I was talking about earlier. Thankfully, that didn't happen this time. Anyway, here's how it went. We killed the base, oh shit, and I missed absolutely everything. Just die! Oh no. No! Can you just die already? And the third one was here. Nope. Oh, I ended up. That doesn't matter. Now what happens? I thought that there were gonna be a third one. The rest of level was pretty easy, so here's the 5-4. 5-4, the Leviathan fight, has always been one of those levels I really enjoy. In most of my runs, it's basically free. I show up, take it down first try and move on. It's a fight I actually like a lot, because it feels challenging but fair. This time though, it didn't go like that. I went way too confident, expecting the usual easy clear, but it ended up messing up my first attempt. I wouldn't even say I got completely destroyed. It just didn't feel clean, and honestly that already threw me off a bit. I did manage to beat it on second try, but it didn't feel deserved. Even though I've played basically the same way, it felt like the game just let me survive. Like I got away with this to pure luck rather than control. Especially with how much hard damage I was avoiding, it didn't feel consistent at all. So yeah, I'm not really satisfied with how I cleared this one. It worked out, but it definitely didn't feel like one of my clear runs. Anyway, here's how my reaction went when I finally took it down. Of course. 6-1 is another level I've always really liked, and honestly, the entire 6th layer is probably my favorite part of ULTRAKILL. There's just something about it, it feels perfectly balanced between chaos and control. It's fast, aggressive, but never unfair. This time though, it was obvious how much I've played it before. Everything just flowed naturally. I wasn't thinking anymore, I was just executing. Movement, positioning, enemy priority, it all felt automatic, like muscle memory. I cleared the whole level without any real mistakes, and it honestly felt more like replaying something I already mastered than doing a challenge run. And I have to empathize this. Altars of Apostasy is easily my favorite OST in all of ULTRAKILL, no question. Every time it starts playing, it instantly locks me into the right mindset. It perfectly matches the insanity of the level while still feeling controlled and focused. It's one of those tracks that just elevates the entire experience for me. The level itself also feels a perfect test of everything you learned up to this point. It relies on gimmicks or forcing weird situations. It just pushes the core mechanic of the game in a really clean way. Because of that, I've never really felt like I needed to switch things up there. Even with the weapon restriction, nothing felt missing. I wasn't thinking I wish I have X weapon. I just played the way I've always have, and it worked perfectly. And I'm pretty sure that's not because the challenge stopped mattering here. Just because I've played this level so many times that it's basically burned into my muscle memory at this point. And yeah, that was 6-1. Let's jump into the live reaction.
Okay, I'm just killing the hideous mouse. I hate this.
The second Gabriel fight. And no jokes here, this was basically the last level before start getting a lot more serious in 7-1. I've always really liked this fight, it's difficult but in a really fair and satisfying way. The more you learn his attack patterns, the better the fight becomes. It rewards consistency and awareness instead of just rough damage or health. And the music is honestly amazing. It fits the fight perfectly and makes the whole encounter feel even more intense. The fight itself didn't take me long this time, but I really enjoyed it. It felt like a nice controlled moment before everything starts going completely off the rails in the next layer.
It's the tone of this fight perfectly. I mean, this is a post state of hate. We're totally fighting for him, like. Oh hell nah, I would kill him there. And your days few.
So, 7-1. I'm not going to lie, I don't really hate this level. The first half actually wasn't that bad, even though I still managed to get a bit lost at times despite having played so many times before. The main issue wasn't even the difficulty, it was the length. I don't know what Hakita was thinking when he made 7-1, but starting a layer with a level that feels like it goes on forever, with a two-faced boss like Minotaur, puzzles that feel like they were designed by Einstein, the semi-combat sections that just keep stacking on top of each other, it really starts to wear you down. It wasn't impossible, it wasn't even necessarily unfair, but it was exhausting. The kind of level where nothing is individually that bad, but everything together just keeps dragging you forward, whenever you want it or not. And yeah, I might have a few opinions while playing it. Let's just say there were moments where I was definitely not silent, but that's a different story. Anyway, here's how it went in real time.
I forget you need to like actually parry that. Hell no. Man, die.
Seven two. Honestly, this is one of the parts I would rather not talk about too much. The level itself wasn't really a problem. In fact, it was pretty straightforward. I only ended up dying once near the end, and that was mostly because I was trying to do a skip for the half of the level. But that's where things got annoying. The skip itself took way longer than it should have. And it wasn't even about the difficulty, it was just me being completely drained at this point. I was basically playing on autopilot, not really focused, I just trying to get through it. I spent like 20 minutes on the section that should have been simple, doing a bunch of small objectives, thinking I was doing everything correctly, but just dragged on forever. Outside of that though, the actual level itself was honestly fine. Nothing too crazy happened, it just took way longer than it should have because of me. Anyway, here's how it went. Oh, 7-3 isn't a difficult level, it's more of an atmospheric one. And honestly, I love the vibe here. It's really dark and almost unsettling, and the whole mechanic of feeding the tree with blood is just incredibly cool. It fits the layer perfectly. Because of that, I didn't really struggle here at all. So I think it makes more sense to talk about the level itself rather than the gameplay. Overall, I say it's pretty mid-level in terms of structure, but the final encounter really stands out. It's not just a simple fight, it's basically you versus normal enemies versus blood-infused enemies all at once, and that combination makes it way more interesting than it sounds on paper. Even though it can be cheesed a bit, but finding a safe spot and letting enemies deal with each other, it still feels really well designed and chaotic and controlled way. It's not necessarily the best fight in the game, but the level as a whole is definitely really solid just because of an atmosphere and that final encounter.
Hell nah, I beat it for the second try. I'm the GOAT of ULTRAKILL, the GOAT. I mean it's standard, but
7-4 is a level I genuinely love. I'd even say it's probably the second best level in the entire 7 layer after 7-3. The whole concept of destroying the Earth Mover piece by piece until you eventually reach its core and then having to escape before everything explodes is just incredible. It doesn't feel like a normal boss fight, it feels like an entire sequence of events, almost like a mini story within the game. And I really appreciated that about it. It stands out from the most other levels in ULTRAKILL, because it's not just a standard arena fight, it actually feels cinematic and structured in a completely different way. That said, I ran into a small problem here. Normally, whenever I had the red nail gun, I would just skip the fight against the Earth Mover defense system entirely. I know it sounds kind of stupid, but with almost 100 hours in ULTRAKILL, I had literally never fought it properly before this run. And of course, this time I didn't have the red nail gun. So yeah, the first couple of attempts didn't go great. I died twice while trying to figure out how the fight actually works. But once I understood the mechanic, it totally became pretty smooth. After that, the rest of level felt like a piece of cake. Still though, I have to give credit to that level itself. It's absolutely amazing. Even with that small struggle, I really enjoyed it. Anyway, here's how it went in real time.
GG!
I mentioned before that the 6th layer is my second favorite in the game, and that's mainly because Frat is my absolute number one. I genuinely love this layer, everything about it just feels right to me. From the pacing to the level design, to the way it slowly ramps up in intensity without ever feeling messy. So naturally, I was really excited to finally get during this run. Even after everything that happened later, 8-1 itself was a really strong start. It's one of those levels that just immediately puts you in the right mindset. I really love 8-1, 8-3 and 8-4. And I intentionally didn't talk about 8-2 yet, because that deserves its own moment later. But overall, you can really tell how much effort went into the entire layer. It feels incredibly polished from start to finish, and it honestly shows up how much the game was involved by at this point. Because of that, I didn't really struggle with 8-1 at all. Usually, even on levels I know well, I tend to make at least few mistakes, here and there. Something minor and slowly me down or breaks my rhythm, but this time, nothing. Everything just clicked perfectly. Movement felt clean, fights were controlled, and I never really felt out scenes with the game. It was one of those rare runs where you're not recreating anymore, you're just exhausting. That's what probably it felt so good. Even though it wasn't necessarily difficult, it still felt incredibly satisfying to play though. So yeah, 8-1 ended one being surprisingly smooth for me, but I still think it's absolutely peak content in terms of design and atmosphere. Anyway, here's how it went in real time.
Yup.
Eight 2. Fraud is actually my number one layer in ULTRAKILL, but 8-2 is the exception. I genuinely dislike this level. It has everything I don't enjoy. Uneven fights, moments that just mentally drain you, and then the final boss that basically the entire community agrees is the one of the most frustrating encounters in the game. I was playing on standard difficulty for this challenge, mostly because I felt like brutal would be too much for a run like this. And honestly, up until the boss, it wasn't even that bad. Most of the level itself was manageable. Even though I don't enjoy it, it doesn't really become difficult in a traditional sense. The only real issue was near the end, where I got a bit lost, because Frat can be pretty confusing to navigate, and then I reached the Mirror Reaper. And I just have to say it. What was Hakita thinking? Seriously. At first, Most of the problems were on me. I completely forgot that you can destroy and parry the arms, so the part is fair, that's on me. But the second phase, where he becomes invincible and you can only see him through a mirror, that's just mechanic. I understand the idea behind it, but I'm not going to lie, it feels absolutely insane to deal with it in practice. I somehow managed to beat it anyway on many attempts. Honestly, I don't even want to know how many, but this is easily the worst boss I fought in the entire game. Still, I did eventually clear it. So here are some glimpses of me slowly losing my sanity against Mirror Reaper.
Where the heck he actually is? How Hakita designed that and said, yeah, it's a good level, let's go. The level was so shitty, man. Hakita, how did you design it? Yes! He was fine. What the hell did happen to V1? Hakita, still, the mirror doesn't help. What the heck did you think would do this? Oh, it is. I knew it. To die. Don't you think it's too challenging for us? Really, like Hakita. It's just too stupidly OP, Hakita. Did you know it? Please. Yes. Where he is? Where is Omni-Man? Where is Omni-Man? Full HP. Oh no. One nerf, Hakita. One nerf won't make him less OP. Finally. Who decided that this boss is canon?
8-3. I actually thought this was going to be the hardest level in this layer. I love this level, but honestly, it is hard. Probably would have been if something unexpected hadn't happened. ULTRAKILL has this weird glitch where if you time a jump perfectly, you can sometimes clip outside the map. And with the rocket launcher, you can basically reach almost any checkpoint and skip large parts of the level. I was planning to do a normal round. No skips, just playing it properly. But while I was pushing forward, I accidentally hit that perfect jump timing and just broke out of the map. I was honestly in shock for a moment, because it was my first time ever seeing something like that happen without using no clip. At that point I just decided, if the game gives me something like that, I might as well use it. So I ended up skipping straight to the final fight. And yeah, his live reaction.
Oh. Please, it'll work. Yes! It worked! That skip was freakingly crazy. I love that skip. She said the line! She said the line! Yup! Ain't no way. I've beaten designation loop in 5 minutes.
8-4, the final level. I wasn't really scared going into this one, because even though I really like this boss, it's not exactly the hardest fight in the game. After everything that happened earlier, especially that skip in 8-3, nothing really surprised me anymore. I went through the fight without any real issues, pretty clean overall. At this point, it just feels like wrapping up the run rather than struggling through it. So yeah, I don't really have much to say else about this one. Here's the final boss fight in the live reaction.
I knew I'm gonna get killed, but for the first try? Yep. Boom, boom, boom. Cornflakes. Give me that. Yep. Boom. Shit face. Yep. Boom. Oh, and he got brutally killed. Yeah. That's all.
So, that's the end of the run. Overall, it was honestly a really interesting challenge. Some parts went way easier than I expected, especially early on, where I barely struggled at all. Other moments like 7-1 and 8-2 definitely tested my patience more than anything else. I also think this run slowed something pretty clearly. Knowing the game well can sometimes matter more than the raw difficulty. Even with weapons restrictions, a lot of the levels still felt pretty manageable, just because of experience and muscle memory. And yeah, there were definitely a few chaotic moments, a few skips and few questionable decisions along the way, but overall I'm pretty happy I did this challenge. If you watched all the way through, thank you for sticking around. It really means a lot. And this isn't the end of the challenge runs. Next up I'm planning to do the same run again but with green weapons only, and after that red weapons only. So yeah, more ULTRAKILL challenges are coming. Thanks for watching.